we will have 6 teams. Each team consists of 3 members. They will be against each other. The winning team will go to the second round. Now, in the first round, the team that get the highest will go directly to the final. And the other 2 teams will be against each other, and the winner will be against the one with the highest score from the first round. How will it go? We will have 8 minutes. So we will give you the argument, then we will tell you if you are within that argument or against that argument. We will decide. So you have to prove your points. You will have 2 minutes to give your speech. Then they will have 2 minutes to try answering your question or to convince you that you are wrong. Then you will have another 2 minutes to reply to them, and they will have 2 minutes. So total of 8 minutes. Is that clear? Any questions? Subjects will be chosen randomly, and maybe there will be new subjects on the spot. We don't know. We will see how will it go. I will just let the judges also give you some idea about the criteria of how are they going to evaluate you, so you will be, the picture will be clear that you are evaluated according to certain criteria.
Okay, good morning everyone. I'm Tom DiGiacomo with Saudi Aramco, and the judging criteria, there's 5 areas. The first one is quality of speech, which includes main arguments and responses are outlined in a clear and orderly way. Secondly, argument is rational and pursues a clear and informative clash of ideas and connections. The second criteria is presentation style, clarity and strong persuasion ability. Precision of arguments all contribute to keeping audience's attention. The third, quality of response to questions. Answers tackle the question imposed and ability to defend its point of view, and strength of supporting points. The fourth, team performance. Equal collaboration of team members. Full team engagement to tackle questions. And the fifth, debate ethics, showing respect to the opposing team's point of view, and morality and good conduct.
Those 5 are our judging criteria.
Okay, clear? Shall we start? Okay, so the first argument, venting toxic gases. It's acceptable if it is below the limit. As a rule, you can vent the toxic gases if it is below the limit. Is that ethical? Are processing facilities required to vent toxic gases or no? What are the environmental and public image impact by doing so? Is it economical to use technology to prevent the release? Some people will say, I am satisfying the rule, so I will vent the gas. Because if I want to prevent, I have to spend more. Others say, no, you cannot do so. Within time, there will be accumulation. And everybody saw that one time we had the problem of the ozone. It didn't happen all of a sudden. I want you to start and be with the argument. Okay, so you will have 1 minute to discuss, and then we will start in 2 minutes. You are against.
The economical side, we don't vent the toxic gases, we will have to store them. So we will have to pay more for storage, for recycling, and will increase our costs. On the legal side, it's under the limit, so it's legal by the regulations to vent the toxins. On the ethical side, as we said, if it's under the limit, so it won't be that harmful for other creatures, human beings, animals, plants also. So that's our thoughts about it.
Hi everyone, good morning. Industry is made to make human life easier and to make more products for the human to benefit them. But about preventing the toxic and making the environment the danger, because this toxic is accumulated with time. It accumulates with time and make even more cost for the industry market. For example, the global warming. We all know that not everyone can see the global warming, but it costs the companies even more, like rising the temperature. Yeah, that's it.
So if they don't vent it, how can they do it? They will spend more money. That will cost the company more money. It will affect their profit. Company will say that we are not doing something wrong. But with time, they may harm the people from that area. Answer.
If they store it and as you said, it will be accumulated, there is a more harmful way that if the toxic gas is flammable, there will be a huge explosion. So in the long term, if it's accumulated under pressure, we have eventually to vent some of it. So venting from the beginning is better than taking the risk.
Material will damage all of this, will cause a hazard for everything. You just release in small amount, you don't feel about it. But after a time, after a while, you see the problem will begin to raise. Actually, you can do many things to get this toxic gas in use. You can use it for you can do research upon them. You can overcome these toxic materials by doing a research and try to use it in some benefits way. It's not all about raising all the toxic material to the environment, to the atmosphere. Then you will see the effects after a while. You will not see it now, you will see it after a while. This is a problem, this is our problem.
Say it.
You say we can't vent it, but until we have the solution, we'll store it. Now,
They want to vent it. They don't want to stop venting it. What can we do with them? How can we convince them? Last say.
Research for you will vent it anyway. So how you will do the research? Here is the problem. You will vent it to the atmosphere. How will you do the research?
Thank you very much. Be ready. We'll see what is the subject. Produced natural gas from Saudi Aramco was sold at a competitive price for the local consumer, like SABIC and petrochemical industry, creating a disadvantage for the foreign investors. Some people find that this is not ethical. They cannot compete with companies like SABIC in the international market because they are taking the raw material cheap. Others say it is one industry, one ministry. So the gas, either it's from Aramco or from any other place, it's one ministry. So they are not buying the gas from different place. It's one country. The gas belongs to the country, and SABIC are using it for as a feed. So now, I want you to support those who are saying that this is making it difficult for us to compete with SABIC. And I want you to convince them that it is one ministry. The gas, it's either from Aramco or SABIC get it directly from the source. It is their right to have it.
Actually, we just discussed this, and we got the idea that if SABIC, if whatever country, X company, control that gas or that market, then the customer will be affected by this. SABIC X company, can control the market, and if just raise the price, nobody can say anything to it, nobody can blame it, because the market is his market. The second point, that the small businesses or the small competitors that come new to the market, they cannot have any chance to beat, and this is an unfair rule of life. The final thing, that as X company control the market, if by chance this facility fails or lose or just destroy, what will happen to the market? What will happen to the economy of the country? Eventually it will decrease. Eventually it will be destroyed by this failure.
So, first of all, to give out the argument that we are all under the same ministry, under the same regulations, under one company. Companies like Saudi Aramco are affiliated with SABIC, Sadara, and all these other companies when it comes to their same standards. They all abide by the same country, and not just the country, but even specifically the oil industry, and what exact regulations. So we ask ourselves, like, why do we give them at such a cheap price? First of all, it's not that it's cheap price per se, but it is less expensive than what we're selling abroad. International, you're talking about, we are in Saudi Arabia, the companies are 100 kilometers away. But we're talking about thousands of kilometers of transportation of gas. That costs a lot of money for transportation. Sometimes certain gas need to be kept under a certain pressure and temperature. That requires specific designed vessels that are usually imported from countries, even though countries that produce it like China, but we still charge us a pretty much amount. So that was something we took into consideration financially. So it's not that we are selling it at a cheap price, but we are selling it in a cheaper price than the actual expensive one. That is one thing. Second, in the economy, under the same ministry, we want to keep, it's more of an economical factor, that we want to try to keep it under the same company, under the same country. So selling it for a cheap price, that kind of even helps the company's image when it comes to economically. Why are we selling it to you, for example, if we're all getting the same economical financial as a company? So it defeats the purpose. If you want to argue with an international company abroad, you need to put into account the transportation.
How can we compete with you? Also, we want to make some profit. We cannot compete with you if you are having the feedstock cheaper than what we are having it. This is not fair. Convince him.
You said that the transportation takes a lot of money, but the Ministry of the Oil, or the one who offers these gases, should give a chance to the other companies to take the choice to take transportations. Take the transportation by itself and take the responsibility.
Also, you mentioned China. China actually is a good example for a country that don't have a lot of resource, but transported from outside China to the China and buy their product by even cheaper than the countries have these resources.
A final remark, I want to mention that you have to take care of the income or the payment of the what we call it, the labor. The labor in China is much cheaper than what we pay here in Saudi Arabia. What the cost of transportation?
I don't think that you convinced them. I think they have a lot to say about this. And he's ready.
First of all, you mentioned before the small competitors. They are also in Saudi Arabia, so they can get the same amount of oil and with the same price as SABIC has. Another point of view is in the environmental point of view. If you ship the oil to abroad, the gases will emit it to the environment, which will cause environmental issues later on. We will talk about the prices with my friend.
So something also you want to consider again, because this is a pure financial problem and it kind of is more economically than actual technical and whatever transportation. You need to put in consideration the oil prices. So as a country, even though we're regulating, the oil price not affects only just Saudi Aramco, but also other companies like SABIC, Sadara. But, and again, also, it went from $100 a barrel to $50 a barrel approximately. So that is something to need to expect. If we are selling it way, way more and paying so much for transportation, how can we guarantee that tomorrow we'll not have another financial crisis and suffer more? Selling it to somebody in the same field, we'd be able to delegate, negotiate costs, and kind of break down about that.
Do you have anything to add to close this discussion? It's taking a long time, and I don't think anybody just convinced the other team. Anything you want to add?
Okay, then close the discussion by saying that the small company that coming from the outside will not have the same chance as the companies from the country. This is obvious. The other thing you mentioned about the global warming, I think it's not that problem because we can make sure that it's safely transported and eliminate any chance of having a problem. If it's happened, it's happened. This is a problem. This is by chance. It's not that dangerous. The final thing that if you have the demand and you have the oil, why you will have a crisis problem? You have. This is the demand. This is
last step. Just tell him.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to mention that when it comes to it's not always safe. You usually have kind of like an oil spill, and that causes a lot of environmental and also financial. And you need to know that when a country is receiving oil from any other country and has an oil spill, both countries have to pay. So we're basically losing financially. Another thing I want to mention this at the end for China is that their manufacturers are way, way cheap. That if they don't live on producing, they're not really getting any financials. That is.
Thank you very much. So we'll be waiting for the judge to see who was qualified to the final. Okay, so the winner from this round is team number 2+2. Number 4 qualified for the last round. Okay. Sustainable energy sources will overtake the need for the crude oil within the next 15 to 20 years. Is the crude oil the only source of energy? Of course not. Is there any other alternative? I think so. Can alternative supply similar amount of energy when you compare it to the oil? Is it cheaper to use the alternative, or the oil will be always the cheapest source of energy? Now, what's most important? Is it the environment or the cost? So now, I want you to support that oil will be always the best source of energy. I want you to convince them that the alternative with the new technologies will be much better than using the oil.
So first of all, we're in support of using oil basically as our main source for energy. So you asked us why, for example, because usually there's a huge bad stigma with oil that it always bad for the environment and everything. But we need to consider things like solar energy, wind, and all of that. That costs a lot. Even it costs multiple thousands just to implement one solar panel. And a solar panel sometimes has a lot of damage that it faces. It's not applicable, as we mentioned before. Some countries face rain. They cannot have implement solar energy. Wind, for example, some places do not have constant wind direction. So even though it does seem in an ideal world that having alternative energy like solar, wind, and geothermal sometimes does seem like a perfect opportunity to harness this energy, however, it is not always applicable, and it's not always basically efficient. For example, faced on the down low, it could just be something that a mistake on the long term as well.
You have more time if you want to say something.
So again, even though we're focusing on crude oil and basically we're supporting it, however, we're really forgetting another really huge element, which is natural gas. Natural gas, it is something that we still harness, not only in Saudi Arabia, but many other companies, and could also be converted in more safe conditions and environment. And not to mention as well, the environmental factor for them, even though we do have some, again, bad stigma when it comes to extraction of oil and gas, but we do have as well many flare gas monitoring plan. There's a lot of waste management, as we mentioned before. So many companies, when they go through these situations and initiation, they always have to have a backup plan to basically help, not to mention waste management and everything as well.
So he thinks that with the oil, we can do something that will make it safe to the environment. So he don't want to go for alternatives. While maybe the alternatives can produce better energy, can be better source of energy. Can you convince him?
Our stance is to definitely go with alternatives, and it's not actually a matter of opinion. We think it's a matter of logic and fact. Oil is weak in two specific cases: when it runs out or when there is no need for it. And it's running out is definitely going to happen. It may not happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen in 100 years, in 50, 500 years. It's definitely going to happen at some point. So we can't just keep using oil until it runs out and then we switch to alternatives. And that's why we need to switch to alternatives, so we can save the oil and focus on these technologies for harnessing technology. To put this in more perspective, we're gonna present two arguments, an environmental one and an economical one, and that's what my colleagues here, Maya and Abdullah, are gonna do.
Okay, so for our environmental reason, when we talk about the environment, we usually think about climate change, gas emissions, all that. I think we're well educated in this field, but there's also disrupting ecological systems and all these interferences to extract the oil and even build pipes and any new technological things to the environment. And there's a famous professor named Bill Green from MIT who said that we might not run out of oil soon, but we might run out of atmosphere before we run out of oil. So that's the environmental.
Adding to Maya, I mean, relying on oil can be very dangerous from an economical point of view. We need to diversify our economy. We can have all the oil that we need, but if the solar or these renewable sources can be proven to be cheap, can be proven to be compact and potential. Now maybe it's not there, but eventually if it's there, you can have all the oil, but it doesn't make any, like people are shifting, going there. Transportation accounts for 60% of the oil selling. if it's getting electrified, you know, hybrid electric vehicles, these kind of electrification.
They want to protect the environment. They want to protect the environment, but they are worried that the oil may finish. So what are you going to do if the oil finish and you are still using it and you did not find any other alternatives?
First, let's talk about the environment issues. There are many alternatives that we can find to solve the environmental issues. For example, let's talk about the gases emitted. There is a multi-usage of, let's say, vacuum recovery, vapor recovery units or something that converts the vacuums, the gases emitted, to oil again using adsorption and absorption, and then fit them to the tank. So it is economically used and it will benefit the environment. Second of all, we can use the flare and incineration for biochemicals or chemical production. Biochemicals, if we use incineration, it will reduce the amount of emission at all. It will burn to ashes, and then we can dispose it as ashes. So minimum amount of risks on the environment.
I have one point regarding the other sources of energy. They are not advanced yet with a good technology, and they are not available everywhere. They cannot be exported. They are not able to be transported. This is my point.
And to account for that as well, I have to stand now. So one thing also to account is that even though we do not have, as we said, we don't have the plants, we have to import it as well from from other countries as well. And we need to do a lot of feasibility studies. We have to know exactly where we're going to be located. Remember, you're in a country that even with how many gas and oil operations, we still need basically spaces, solar panels. You need acres to support that. Just to what? Just to even help power even one house. So that you need to understand also your country, to understand what it needs, and oil feeds that.
Seems that you did not convince him. He will continue using the oil because he thinks that we have enough amount of oil for a long time, and during this long time maybe new technologies will come. After that he will think about it. What do you think about that?
So if we keep having that mentality, we're never going to get to alternative resources. And I think you're actually missing the point, because you keep talking about flares and very small amounts of emissions, but you're forgetting about the huge sector of transportation, which is why I'm actually going to give it to Abdullah to talk about emissions that come from cars, which in orders of magnitude higher than things like flares and extraction emissions. Abdullah, please.
Cars in itself, it's taking the majority of the fields. We drive it every day and so on. And the amount of emissions, even though it is decreasing, but it's huge. Big cities like Beijing, the big cities like California, it's harming a lot on the environment. And again, you mentioned about environmental, like building technology to capture the CO2 or capture these emissions. Why bother about these things if you go back to the technology itself? Let's go a step back and change the way that we're perceiving, not using oil. Let's go renewable with zero clean sources. And one other.
Okay, so for the last point, I think that we're probably concerned about having this valuable resource in our country, and we want to tap that basically. So Abdullah Jum'a once said that we shouldn't be concerned about not using oil because it's always going to be a valuable resource, even in manufacturing things. We have petrochemicals, plastics, all these things. We can use oil in other ways that are that don't directly emit CO2 and harmful gases to the environment.
So they are saying if you don't think for an alternative from now, you will never think about it. So you have to start thinking early. You don't have to wait until the fact. You have to think before the fact. If you will wait, every generation will wait. So there will be never a starting point. This is the final round. So we will give you the chance to Try to convince them for the last time.
You keep saying that we're not on the same mentality, but I think we're looking at the same target here, which is trying to be as more efficient. Now you quoted that said that we should not be afraid of using oil. Now, as you can say that to the middle that oil is going to run out in 50, 60 years. So are you saying we should just sit around and just leave it there waiting? No. We need to use it basically to, for example, what my colleague mentioned is that we do not have advanced technologies and financial resources to be able to obtain these renewables, just like you say. However, if we stop using oil and all of these resources, we won't have any financials to even go through beyond even considering a study or anything to implement with, and even not even implement with one panel. So if you want to cut down oil, for example, as of tomorrow, how are we going to make sure that, well, solar panels and wind and everything is going to be implemented as soon as possible? And it's not only is it going to be working, but how is it going to meet the country's demands? We need to understand that we have different uses of transportation, different use of households, so that's something with consideration. Again, we would love to live in a world where renewable energy is used and we can basically live off basically greenery, but sadly, we sometimes need to tap to some of these resources. Not to mention as well, even though there is a lot of flare monitoring, there is recovery plans, we do even try to even harness oil and gas in the most environmental way we can. We cannot just leave it standing there.
Actually, about the point of why we use the technologies, the technology will not cost as much as solar or thermal or geothermal energies as we use the money that we spend on solar. We can use it only to make the units with zero emission to the outside. So the point is not wasting money for nothing. We can use the same amount with more efficient.
So he is convinced that there is alternatives. But what he's saying that these alternatives it is not so efficient, and he has a doubt that it will be efficient in the near future. So he wants to wait until the technology is developed more, so maybe later he will think about it.
I think we need to be visionary. We need to look at the future, at the far, far future. I agree with you. We cannot implement the change right now, right here. But we need to decide the right time. We have a good economy right now, and we need to spend the money into this technology to improve its efficiency. Imagine if we run out of oil. Imagine if the oil is not, if its price going down because of alternatives. At that point, we cannot invest because our economy is not as good as now. You're telling me that solar is not good enough. That's not correct. I mean, one of the main, in this region, the GCC region, which is so hot, one of the main electricity consumer is air conditioning. And we have this beautiful sun that we can utilize every single day. We can utilize it to use solar power to air conditioning, but it can be implemented at the time that we have the money. But imagine that's in 30, 40 years where we, things are shaking. The economy is not as good, as not healthy as right now. It will be more extremely difficult to implement such a thing. I truly believe, to finish it off, I mean, we should look at it's a serious issue right now, environmental, economic. We should address it now, not later. I'm not saying that we will completely shift into sustainability, but we should get a big chunk of our energy share into sustainable, and eventually, hopefully, we can take it 100% to get a cleaner life and secure the future for the next generations. Thank you.
Yeah, since we have a couple seconds there, I want to also talk about one point that you keep mentioning, which is that alternatives are not good in every country, and the truth is it doesn't have to be. Like Saudi Arabia, for example, doesn't have to implement solar and wind and biodiesel. No. We can implement solar technology. Sure, we can implement the wind alternative technology, and so on and so forth. That's just one clarification that I wanted to say. Thank you.
Any more thing? Thank you very much, and I'm sure that everybody here is agree that we should look for an alternative starting from yesterday. So we are just waiting for the judges to give us the results, and I'm sure that everybody had a good experience in this debate competition, and we will just announce the winner in a while, and the one who will announce the winner is Abu Mubarak.
Thank you, Dr. Basim. Thank you, Dr. Nasser and Tom. Thank you for our audience. Thank you for the teams. I will be waiting for it. It was a great, interesting debate. Thank you. I guess you qualified. Are we ready or yet? Oh, they are there. Thank you. How do you see this debate goes? Let me take one to the audience.
Actually, I wanted to listen to the comments from the judging team before I say what I want to say. Actually, it was a good experience for us to try to think from another point of view, and we will learn from this one experience, and inshallah we will debate another times, inshallah. That's all.
Salman?
Actually, I'm impressed with the talking that we are some of them are undergraduate or graduate, and they share good experience about our future and about economic and our environment. This is really nice, and what a positive vision and to the future and to the next generation.
I will pass it to the judge. So, comment?
Yeah, for the comment, both teams they did very well. But for me, it seems that the experience, the practice, it's make the difference between the two teams. That's all.
I just want to add that I think this is excellent. It's an idea I'm going to bring back to other countries like the U.S. because I see different conferences they have there that doesn't match this level of conference. Another thing I want to add is I attended a meeting one time, and I don't know who follows American football, but there's Bill Belichick is the coach of the New England Patriots with Tom Brady and so on. And one of the things he said that only 17% of the time when it's, actually 83% of the time, the team that makes it to the championship doesn't have the league MVP, meaning it's teamwork. Only 17% of the time when it goes to the championship does the team have the best person. So I want to emphasize the importance of teamwork. And as you work as a team, you're gonna rise to the top. You may have the best person on your team, but if you don't operate as a team, you're not going to make it, most of the time.
Thank you, Dr. Nasser and Thomas. I guess Dr. Basim and his team, they get finally the results to now announce the winner. And I guess we had how many teams this year?
6 teams, and the best 3 qualified for the second run. The first one directly to the final, and the second 2 they played against each other, and the winner qualified for the final.
Great. And before announcing, I'm going to interview both teams. Sorry to take more time, if you allow me. Do you have time? Okay. Let me just have your opinions. Oh, we have time.
I was just talking to them. I mean, I've never had this in my life, like something like this, and it feels good to debate. Like we debate in homes and with friends, but it's never like this. It's never constructive. This one is constructive. You listen to the others. You tend to defend whatever your point, but sometimes you're convinced with the others more than.
Are you gonna win? This is important.
It's up to you. I'm not sure.
What do you think?
Of course, we're here to defend ourselves. Yeah, we were here to.
It's either winner or winner. So you will be the winner.
Let's see in 5 minutes.
Right. Let's give you the.
Okay, so I actually have experience in being in debate teams, but this is the first time I was in a technical debate team. I think it's very challenging to be in a position that opposes your personal views, and because it's technical, you have to back it up with facts. So I think I agree with you. We do have to have more of these events internationally, because we need to understand how people develop ideas based on facts rather than opinions.
I think it was fun. I really think so. I had fun, and that's kind of like the most important thing about all of this, you know. But a big picture kind of thing is that if the region's leaders are going to be people like the ones we debated, we're in good hands, I think. That's reassuring.
So you're sure you're gonna win? I have my contribution, by the way.
I'm not sure. I'm sure I had fun, and that's the important part.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me have the other team, please.
This is the first debate I have joined. I have got experience about how is everything is done, how to support subject. That's it.
Exhausted because this is our third debate in the last hour. So, but I thought it was pretty interesting. We did face a lot of challenges with each team. It did seem, even though I've only done one debate a few years ago, but it's about like basically like a reconstructive society. So different topics. So it's not really a technical, but that was about it.
Yeah. At first, it was only for fun. I didn't recognize that I was in finals, so it's really enjoyable. It's my first debate, but we reached the final.
Thank you. I guess you were competing with, they study their master degrees and they're from KAUST, but I guess you made it to the final and you were competing with them. Please give them a thanks, all the team. So, we have 3 winners. Let me call team number 3. Please come to the stage. Team number 3. Welcome. Just introduce yourself, please. From where?
I'm Mohammed Abussaud from KFUBM, Further University of Victoria. I'm chemical engineer student, senior student.
I'm Mujahid Guide, chemical engineer at KFUBM. Sophomore, third year.
Hi, my name is Ahmed. I'm a chemical engineering student at KFUBM. I'm senior student.
Great, thank you, Dr. Abussaud, please.
One of them my student.
Okay, that's why I know, now they are winning.